Hi, I'm Corrine. Welcome to Goodbye Gluten, where
saying goodbye to gluten does not mean saying goodbye to great food and great taste.
So please like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe to our channel.
So today we are making a yummy favorite of ours, chicken and dumplings. I use a drop biscuit style dumpling. This may be different than what you grew up with, but this is what I am making. Let's see what we need. So here's what you're going to need. We have about 3/4 of a pound of chicken breast diced, chopped up bite-size-ish. We're also going to be utilizing two quarts of chicken stock. This is our homemade chicken bone broth. You can find the recipe linked up here. And then down here we have half of a yellow onion, 2 stalks of celery, about 3 or 4 russet potatoes, and 2 medium-sized carrots. This is a great way to use up if you have like some leftover or maybe carrots or celery that are kind of getting on that soft, ready to go out the door phase and you don't necessarily just want to stick it in a salad. Soup is a great way to do that. We also have 4 large cremini mushrooms diced up. We're going to use a half can each of green beans and corn. So this is all the yummy good stuff. And then to make our seasoning, for seasonings we will use some thyme, some basil, some oregano. Oops, so I threw it down. We'll use some salt. And then to make our gravy, kind of our sauce thicken, we've got 3 tablespoons of gluten-free flour. This is the Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 blend. And 2 tablespoons of Earth Balance dairy-free butter substitute. Then for the best part of all, we're going to do dumplings. We're going to use half of a package of the Red Lobster gluten-free biscuit mix. So let's get started.
Go.
So we have my very favorite Lodge cast iron Dutch oven. This was one of the best Christmas presents I've ever been given, just so you know. I have it heating to about a medium high, and I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of olive oil to the bottom. We'll let that warm up. Alright, so our oil is hot. You can see it's starting to shimmer a little bit. That's what tells us it's ready. We're going to put the chicken in, everybody into the pool. Kind of spread it around so everything's touching. Here we're going to add 1 layer of seasoning. So we're going to add a little bit of our basil, a little bit of oregano, a little bit of thyme, and a very tiny amount of salt, maybe a half a teaspoon max. You want to season the chicken, but not over season it because we do have seasonings in the broth. So we're going to let that cook. The idea here is just to get a little bit of a sear on the bottom of on the chicken itself. And let this cook for a couple of minutes. So I'm just cooking this, I'm stirring it frequently. Again, we only want to cook this for 3 or 4 minutes. The idea is to kind of build up some of that yummy goodness on the bottom of the pan and give a little bit of flavor to the meat itself. So now what we're going to do, got a clean bowl. We're going to carefully transfer that and set it aside. Now I'm going to put in all of my vegetables, everybody into the pool. Give them a quick stir to absorb any of that oil that's down there. Kind of start warming them up. And now we'll add our liquid. So we've got 2 quarts of chicken broth. Yummy. And we're going to add about a half quart of water. Give this a nice little stir. We're going to bring it up to a boil. So I'm going to bring my heat up and wait for this to boil. Once it boils, we're going to add our chicken back in and bring it down to a simmer until everything is fully cooked. Okay, this is just coming up to a boil. I'm going to add my chicken back in very carefully. All of those good, yummy chicken juices. Give it a quick stir. I'm going to turn it down a little bit so it doesn't boil over. Now we want this to cook for about 10 minutes until the potatoes are fully cooked. So again, about 10 minutes, depending on how dense and big your potato pieces are. So let's get started making our dumplings. This is a great time to use a food scale if you have it, because we're only going to use half of this mix. What I usually do in this case is I take my mix out. I'm going to weigh it in grams. It is 332 grams for the whole thing. So now I've tared it. My bowl is at 0. Somebody took my scissors. So I'm going to want about 160 grams. There we go, we've got 160. We'll put that in a Ziploc bag and save it for later. And now we're going to use about 2/3 cup of cold water, because we want to make this a little looser than the actual, if we were making biscuits. We'll put the rest of that biscuit mix in a Ziploc bag, save it for when we want to make biscuits, and know that there's a half a recipe. It's especially nice to do if you know you're only going to use half the mix, maybe because there's only 2 people in the household, or you just don't want all of that temptation hanging around the house, especially things like brownies, cookies, etc. So there we have our mix. We're going to let this sit while our soup finishes cooking. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes. We're going to check our potatoes. Look at that. Ooh, look at that. Nice and soft. Look at that. Good. Now we're going to give this a quick taste for seasoning. Ooh, that's good. That is really, really good. All right. Now that our potatoes are done, we're going to add our corn, green beans, and mushrooms carefully, because otherwise they'll splash out. Give those a quick stir. And then as this comes back up to a boil, we will make our roux. So I've melted our butter, dairy-free butter substitute. We're going to add our 2 tablespoons of flour and mix it. So we're mixing in our flour. We want it to be smooth and liquidy. This is the base for a roux. Many times you start off with doing the roux in the hot pan and then add your liquid. If this is smooth, you can do this and it will make the most velvety gravy ever. So this is ready to go as soon as this comes back up to a nice rapid boil. This is coming back up to a boil. And we're going to add in our fat and flour mix. Get all that good stuff out. Start mixing. And then bring this back up to a boil. That's all mixed in. You can kind of see it starting to get a little bit creamy. Once we add the biscuit mix in, that will even become more creamy. So here we have our dumpling mix. And depending on the size of the dumplings you want, you can use a teaspoon or a larger spoon. So I know my husband, he likes the big dumplings. Just remember, the size matters because the bigger the dumplings, the longer it's going to take to cook. So we're going to drop these in by spoonfuls, trying to keep them about the same size. You want them to completely submerge, but also don't stack them on top of each other, because the broth is what's going to cook the dough.
That smells so good.
And it's a good idea to kind of keep an eye on how many you're putting in, because the sad part about the dumplings is they don't necessarily left over the best. So you really want to make sure you're going to eat all those up, even if you have leftover chicken soup. Let's see. Spot right there. We got enough for one more.
Like the perfect amount.
Okay. We're going to give everybody a gentle stir. You don't want to break up the dumplings, but you kind of want to make sure everybody's covered and in the pool, so to speak. We'll let those cook for about 5 minutes. Okay, so it's been 5 minutes. You can see they look nice and puffy. I'm actually going to pull one out, put it over here on a plate, and just check it. And see, oh yeah, look at that. Those are done. This is ready to go. So we're going to pull this off the heat. Okay, so this is ready to dish up. You want to kind of do it carefully because you don't want to disturb your dumplings. I'm going to go from the bottom and pull up some of the good stuff from the bottom and then pull out a couple of dumplings. Let's see, 2, kind of give a quick count here how many we have. 2, 3. Because heaven forbid I take more than my share of dumpling. There we go. All right, see what we have here. We have our chicken and dumplings. I'm gonna take a bite. A little bit of dumpling. A little bit of carrot and mushroom. Oh, it's hot. Oh, that dumpling is so creamy and yet a little bit firm. If you want the dumplings to be a little more firm, you could absolutely cook it another minute or 2. I personally like them a little more on the soft side. Reminds me of fresh baked bread, maybe. Ooh, that's hot. All right. Thank you very much. I hope you make this and enjoy this supper. Remember what we always say here at Goodbye Gluten. Saying goodbye to gluten does not mean saying goodbye to great food and great taste. Have a good evening.